There are so many weird things that happened on Halloween nights in the past that the stories I'll tell you today will make your skin crawl. So get ready and stay tuned until the very end because the last story will tell you about the Candyman or the man who killed the Halloween. Number 5. The Harvest on Ice. On the night of Halloween 1963, over 4,000 people were in the Indiana State Fairgrounds Coliseum to watch a Holiday on Ice performance. While this was happening, liquefied petroleum gas was slowly leaking from a tank that was stored with several others in a supply room underneath a part of the grandstands. Shortly after 11 p.m., when the show was approaching its final, the gas came into contact with an electrical heating element from the concessions area, causing a major explosion that killed many seated above the room straight away and caused significant damage to the stands. After the initial blast, while people were evacuating, a second blast caused by the remaining unexploded tanks caused further destruction.
It was the most horrible spectacle that I ever witnessed. I cannot understand how it happened, and it was so fast that no one had an opportunity to get away from it.
81 people died in total, and about 400 others were injured. It was one of the worst disasters in the history of both the city and the state. Firefighters and other emergency responders were at the site within the minutes, and survivors were transported via ambulance to various hospitals in the area. The gas tanks were discovered by firefighters during cleanup operations, and later testing revealed that they were the cause of the explosion. Indianapolis Star reporter Richard Roberts reported the events of the night and described the tragic aftermath as a horrific scene, writing, "You walked into a nightmare. This was the worst thing I have seen since combat in World War II." Number 4. Halloween decoration. It was Halloween night of 2005, and locals in Frederica, Delaware thought that their neighbor had reached new heights with her Halloween decorations. A body hanging from a tree in the garden was thought to be a decoration for a tree house before people realized it was an actual person. The apparent suicide of a woman found hanging in a tree was ignored for hours because neighbors thought she was a Halloween decoration. The 42-year-old woman's body was suspended 5 meters, which is 15 feet from the ground, at the side of a busy road from Tuesday night, as police said. Locals noticed the body early on Wednesday but dismissed it as a Halloween prank. They thought it was a Halloween decoration. Mayor William Glendon's wife Faye told the local paper, "It looked like something somebody would have rigged up." Children went trick-or-treating without knowing they are actually staring at a real dead body. Number 3. Headless Halloween Corpse. 2014 was another bad year for convincing Halloween decorations, as when a man dragged a headless body out of his apartment and then kicked the head to the other side of the street, and people thought it was a Halloween prank. The truth only came to the light later, when a person tried to move the dead body out from the middle of the street and realized it was a real person. The body was that of Patricia Ward, whose son had a history of mental illness. And one night he decapitated his mother. After he left the body in the street, he leapt in front of a moving train. Number 2. The Witch of Oklahoma. On Halloween night 1977, little Nima was sleeping in her cradle. The following morning, though, Nima's horrified mother, Rose, found her daughter's cradle is empty, where the child vanished from their locked house. It was a month before her tiny body was found in a fridge in an old abandoned house nearby. Both Rose and Nima's father, George, passed a lie detector test, confirming they were not responsible for their daughter's abduction or death. Before the little girl's mysterious disappearance, there were several chilling clues that something sinister was at work on the small town of Lawton, Oklahoma in the United States. 2 years earlier, twin girls Mary Elizabeth and Augustine Lena Carpenter were lured out of their home by the babysitter they adored, Jacqueline Rubidoux. They were taken to an abandoned house and locked in an old fridge. 2 days after they were snatched, Mary suffocated and died, but her twin sister Augustine was still desperately crying out for help. Eventually, her screams were heard by children playing nearby, and she was rescued. Augustine told everyone her babysitter was responsible, but even with an eye of witness, it took 3 years for Rubidoux to be convicted. The killer babysitter's involvement could be the missing piece in the terrifying puzzle. Rubidoux also babysat for Rose and George Carter, looking after their baby daughter Nima. She was jailed for life in 1979. Rubidoux died in 2005 from cirrhosis while still serving her sentence. George said, "I'd like to talk to Jackie now. If I did, I'd ask her if she killed Nima. I'd hope she would tell me the truth." But he has managed to find some peace in the long years since his daughter's death. George said, "I don't need to know now because the person who did this will have to ultimately answer to God." Number 1. The Man Who Killed the Halloween. Ronald O'Brien lived with his wife Dianne in Deer Park, Texas with their son Timothy and daughter Elizabeth. O'Brien worked as an optician and was a deacon at the Second Baptist Church where he sang in a choir and ran a local bus program. On October 31st of 1974, O'Brien took his kids trick-or-treating in the company of a neighbor and his 2 children. After visiting a home where the occupant failed to answer the door, the children grew impatient and ran ahead to the next home while O'Brien stayed behind. He eventually caught up with the group and produced 5 21-inch long pixie sticks, which he would later claim he was given from the occupant of the house that had not answered the door. At the end of the evening, O'Brien gave each of his neighbors 2 children a pixie sticks and one each to Timothy and Elizabeth. Upon returning home, O'Brien gave the 5th pixie sticks to a 10-year-old boy whom he recognized from his church. Before bed, Timothy asked to eat some of the candy he collected, and according to Ronald, he chose the pixie sticks. Timothy had troubles getting the powdered candy out of the straw, so O'Brien helped him loosen the powder. After tasting the candy, Timothy complained that it tasted bitter and immediately began to complain that his stomach hurt and ran to the bathroom, where he began vomiting and convulsing. Timothy O'Brien died on the way to the hospital less than an hour after consuming the candy. Timothy's death from poisoned Halloween candy raised fear in the community. The police did not initially suspect O'Brien of any wrongdoing until Timothy's autopsy revealed that the pixie sticks he had consumed was laced with a fatal dose of cyanide. According to a pathologist who tested the pixie sticks, the candy consumed by Timothy contained enough of cyanide to kill 2 adults, while the other 4 candies contained enough to kill 3 to 4 adults. Ronald Clark O'Brien, nicknamed the Candyman and the Man Who Killed the Halloween, poisoned his son in order to claim life insurance money to ease his own financial troubles, as he was $100,000 in debt. He was convicted of capital murder in June 1975 and sentenced to death. He was executed by lethal injection in March 1984. This is it. I hope you enjoyed my stories and you will have a creepy Halloween, so trick or treat. Happy Halloween, your huntress.